Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing the 26 books that I am most excited to add into my 2026 TBR. Some of these are going to be new releases while others are books that I just have here on my shelf, so I'm looking forward to read this year. While going through the 26, I am going to start with new releases, going in order by publication date, and then move on to my physical TBR. Alright, starting at number 1, we have My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. This is a psychological thriller that is set to release on January 20th. After loving Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, I cannot wait to read another book by her. This book follows Eden, our main protagonist, who comes home after going on a run, only to find not only is the lock on her door changed, but also her husband is claiming another woman who looks eerily like her, his wife. After just reading the synopsis, I'm so excited to read this book. It sounds so interesting and it already has me on the edge of my seat. Alice Feeney does such a great job in not only creating a story that has you guessing up until the very last page, but she also delivers twists that are so insane it'll have you thinking about it long after you finish the book. This book is very high up on my radar and I'm so excited to get to it this January. Alright, next up we have Just Friends by Haley Pham. This is set to release on March 3rd. Haley Pham has been a YouTuber that I've absolutely loved for as long as I can remember. I know there has been a lot of mixed reviews on this book, but after knowing and loving Haley's personality and being able to see that shine through in her book, as well as having a very similar book taste to her, I do think this will end up being a book that I do like. Just Friends is a second chance romance book following Blair and Declan, who were childhood best friends until a moment shattered it all. Both of them went their separate ways, and 4 years later, Blair moves back home in order to support her mom. She applies to work at a local coffee shop only to find that the manager is none other than Declan himself. Alright, the next book that I am so excited to read this year is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. This is set to release on March 24th. I have read so many others of Abby's books and I've loved them all. I don't think I've rated a book under 3 stars from her, so I bet I will love this one just as much as the others. And for the synopsis of this book, it says, for Larissa, it came up to choosing who to ride home with after a concert, but she didn't choose Chris, who is one of her great friends, to drive her home all those months ago. She went with his best friend and he became her boyfriend. All Chris wants for Larissa is to be happy. Standing by on the sidelines is slowly killing him, but making a move would destroy someone else. That book just sounds so amazing and I cannot wait to get to it. Next we have Fever Dream by Elsie Silver. This is set to release on May 19th. This is the first book in the Emerald Lake series, which is going to be her 4th series. And the Emerald Lake series is still interconnected to all of her other series, Chestnut Springs, Rose Hill, Gold Rush Ranch. I am a little bit more nervous to read this one because this universe has been going on for so long. I'm just scared that at some point it's going to be too much and we're just going to need it to end. However, I definitely will give this book a shot. I am curious to see how far she can really take this, and I really do hope I love it as much as all of her other books. Next up, we have Dolly All The Time by Annabelle Monaghan. I have absolutely loved most of Annabelle's books. I read Nora Goes Off Script and Just for the Summer, and those have been 2 of my favorite books. This book is set to release on May 26th. This is a contemporary romance following Dolly, who moves back home in order to keep her brother and dad from losing their family home. While she's back home, she comes across Stuart, who's just getting out of a very public and very humiliating breakup. Dolly offers to help Stuart, which becomes this huge fake dating agreement and leads to more than she can handle. Ignoring that his name is Stuart, I'm going to move past that, cover my eyes real quick. I am very excited for this book, and I do think it will be great. I usually consider Annabelle Monaghan's books more literary fiction over romance just because of all the heavy topics that she includes in each of her books. She often carries more depth and character development, which I really love out of her writing. Either way, Annabelle Monaghan has become an author that I truly love and I cannot wait to read this book in the spring. Next up, we have The Midnight Train by Matt Haig. This book is set to release on May 26th. A few years ago, I actually read The Midnight Library and I absolutely loved this book. It was totally out of my comfort zone, but in the best way possible, and really helped me explore different genres. So if you haven't read this book, I definitely recommend. I believe he has a whole midnight series going on, so it's kind of connected to this. When I saw this book was set to come out into the spring, I was so excited, and I immediately had it added to my TBR. In this book, there is a midnight train that can take you back to past moments, and you're able to change the past and relive moments that mean most to you. This concept just seems so fun and unlike so many other books. The fantasy elements that he adds in makes just for such an engaging and fun read as well, and I cannot wait to get to this one. Alright, next up we have The Someday Garden by Ashley Paulston. I've read all of Ashley's other books and I really loved them, so I hope this one is just as amazing. The way that Ashley writes her books are just so fun and refreshing for romance novels. They are extremely fast-paced and the perfect book to get you out of a reading slump. I cannot wait to add this one to my shelves once it releases. This book follows Sophie as she travels to Maine for the summer to revitalize a piece of land. She notices a door appear which leads her to a secret garden with a man that's trapped inside a thundercloud. I think that the synopsis is very confusing, but I'm trusting Ashley here. She's never let me down yet, so I'm not going to second guess this. I'm just going to see how it plays out. Alright, the rest of these books have been already published and I want to get to them this year. A lot of these books I actually own, but I've just been looking for the right time to read them, so I hope that 2026 is their year. First up is Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao. I don't physically have this book with me, but I am so excited to get to it this year. I was actually influenced to buy this book by one of the Barnes & Noble staffs where I was shopping. I was looking at the back of this book because I've heard so many things about it online, and she actually came up to me and was telling me how great it is, and so I had to buy it. This is a fantasy book which is set in Tokyo, Japan, and within the city there is a pawn shop, but only certain people can see. Other people will simply see it as a ramen restaurant. But however, if you are chosen, you will be able to see the pawn shop and are able to pawn your greatest regrets and life choices. This kind of concept just seems so fresh and interesting. I cannot wait to read it this year. Alright, next up, I actually own this book. It is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I am really looking forward to finish the Magnolia Park series this year, and this is one I want to get to after. I've heard so many positive reviews for this book, so I want to go ahead and read it. It just looks so amazing, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. This book follows Georgia as she returns home for her father's funeral. Complicated emotions and hidden secrets are revealed, and Georgia, who is a professional lie detector and body language reader actually, tries to uncover the truth about her family's secrets. I think that having a main character who's not only a professional lie detector, but a professional body language reader is so exciting. I absolutely love that concept, and I am really looking forward to read this book. Alright, next up is another book that I own. It is The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is another book that I've had for a while, but finally I'm looking to get to this year. I have been reading a lot of Abby Jimenez's work, and this one just sounds so amazing and unique. This book follows Sloane as she finds a dog who needs a home, only to find out his owner is a famous musician. I really hope that I love this one as much as the others that I've read from her. Alright, next up is a whole series, but we're doing it as one, and that is the Windy City series by Liz Tomford. I've heard so many people rave about this series, and I am just aiming to mark it off my TBR this year. However, I've heard a lot of mixed opinions on book 1, Mile High, so I am a little bit cautious going into that one, knowing I might not like it. However, I'm still going to read it and give it a try. I think sport romances are just so fun and exciting, so having 5 different sports actually seen in each of these books, it sounds like something I would absolutely love, and I cannot wait to get to. Next up is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. This book focuses on a family who lives on a remote island when a woman washes up mysteriously after a storm. The Saul family, who we are following, doesn't know how she got there or why she is there. Secrets start arising, and everyone starts wondering who they can really trust. Honestly, this book sounds like one I would have never even picked up if I haven't heard so many amazing things about it. As someone who is trying to read more literary fiction books, I definitely want to try this one after all of the love and amazing reviews that it gets, and the worst thing that can happen is I don't like it or I DNF it. Next up, we have The Ministry of Time. This book is written by Callie-Ann Bradley, and I have been looking to read this book for so long, but it's very intimidating to me, so hopefully I get to that one this year. This is a time travel romance who focuses on a civil servant who works with the government in order to discover if time travel is possible. Traveling back in time, she has the task to monitor someone who died in 1845. She begins bringing modern technology and trends into the past, and they grow a deep relationship with each other. This concept seems so unlike any other that I have read, and I'm really excited to read it the more that I think about it. Being able to watch the two characters navigate through cultural differences, also knowing that history ends in such a certain way, just adds such an emotional depth and tension to their relationship. Alright, next up is a book that I am actually currently reading, but I decided to still add it into this because I'm only like 4 pages in, so I thought it still counted. And that is The Bright Years by Sarah Demoff. After seeing so much love for this book, especially for a debut novel, I decided to add it to my TBR, and only a couple pages in, I'm truly loving it so far. The Bright Years is a historical fiction novel that focuses on Ryan and Lillian, who are a married couple. However, they are hiding secrets from each other. Because of this, their daughter Georgette comes of age watching their marriage fall apart. In this book, we see such a strong representation of family dynamics and also alcohol and domestic abuse. I want to read this book because it sounds like a very emotionally heavy story, although so very beautiful and will just stick with you over time. Next is a book that I'm hoping to get this year, and that is Running Man by Stephen King. Stephen King is one of the authors that I'm looking forward to keep reading this year, and after loving The Hunger Games, this book seems right up my alley. This is a futuristic novel who focuses on Ben, who becomes a contestant on this show where you can either win money or die trying. I'm really excited to read it because it feels like a darker, more intense version of The Hunger Games. Another book that I own but don't physically have is 11/22/63. This book is also written by Stephen King, and another one that I do not honestly think I would have ever thought to pick up if it wasn't for all of the recommendations and amazing things that I've heard about it. This book is about a man who finds a portal back to 1958 and is tasked with trying to stop the JFK assassination. Eventually, he acclimates to an era that happened decades before, even going out to meet Lee Harvey Oswald, who is the assassinator of JFK. The length of this book being well over 900 pages, as well as its focus on politics, seems very intimidating to me and very far from something that I like. However, hearing more about it, I do become more curious. And I do think this can end up being a book that surprises me the most this year. Alright, next up is another book that I just picked up, and it is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I've been eyeing this book every time I walk in the bookstore, and I finally caved and got it, and I'm really looking forward to read this one this year. Not only is the cover just absolutely stunning, but the book itself seems like nothing I've ever read before. And I'm so excited to continue branching out into different genres and seeing what I think of this book. This is a mystery book that is set in 1975 at a summer camp. One of the counselors noticed that someone is missing, and it happens to be the daughter of the family who actually owns the camp. However, a child from that same family also disappeared 14 years prior in a very similar manner to this one. This book sounds so good because I just love books where you can feel the tension right aside the characters, and I can already start feeling this by just reading the back of this book. Next up, we have a book that I'm looking to get, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This book is a sci-fi novel, another genre that I'm trying harder to get into this year. When I looked up the most popular and highest rated books, this is one that came up, and the synopsis just sounded so great. So I'm definitely looking forward to read this one this year. This book follows an astronaut who wakes up after a long period of time with no memories of what happened and finds himself millions of miles away from home, only accompanied by two corpses. This high-stakes situation that is so focused on beating impossible odds feels so thrilling and incredibly entertaining. Next up, we have Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. Her series Once Upon a Broken Heart is one of my all-time favorites, so seeing that she has released a new book, I immediately had to get it. This is Stephanie Garber's first adult fantasy novel, and it follows a woman who tracks down a local legend who could tell you when you die. However, she was told she would die at midnight the next day, and the only way she could prevent that from happening is finding an ancient object called the Alchemical Heart. I'm excited to read this book because I absolutely love all of Garber's books and her ability to create such a beautiful, magical world that is filled with twists and layered characters, and I can already see myself absolutely loving this book. Next up, we have Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. This contemporary romance novel focuses on overcoming grief. Our main character has just lost her best friend, and the only thing that she can handle doing is babysitting. After landing a gig, she receives a proposition from the child's uncle to be able to help her live again. There's just something so comforting about romance novels that handles care and emotional vulnerability. Another book that I got but that has been sitting on my shelf for so long and I'm definitely looking forward to read this year is The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. This is another book that I've had on my shelves for a while, but I've never been quite drawn to pick it up. However, the concept of this book sounds super interesting, and as I'm trying to branch out into books that I would have never thought to pick up, I'm only getting more interested in this one. The synopsis of this book is set in such an interesting way that the only way to cure my curiosity is to read the book. The synopsis reads, out of the Yorkshire moors lives a secret land of people for whom books are food, and who retain all of a book's content after eating it. Eating a map can help them remember destinations, and when children misbehave, they are forced to eat dry, musty pages from dictionaries. Devon, a part of this family, realizes her son wasn't born with a hunger for books, but instead for the human mind. This book seems so fascinating, and I cannot wait to see how this book explores these magical elements. Alright, next is another book that I just picked up, and that is In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. This is the fourth and final book in the When in Rome series, which I absolutely love and highly recommend if you have not read it already. If you are looking for a great palate cleanser or are in a book slump, this is a great series to read. This book follows Madison Walker and her connection to her brother's best friend, James. The characters in the town of Rum, Kentucky just feels so vivid and memorable. While I am a little sad that the series is coming to an end, I am super stoked to finally be able to read this book. Alright, next up is another book that I'm looking to get, and that is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This sci-fi novel is another that I found while looking on Goodreads best sci-fi books, and it definitely piqued my interest. This book follows a New York City cop as he investigates this phenomenon called false memory syndrome, where victims are driven crazy by memories that are not from their lifetime. This book immediately caught my attention because of its uniqueness, and I am just super curious to seeing how the main character navigates through this, and also understanding why this syndrome occurs to so many people. The next is very, very high up on my TBR, and that is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This book has been on my TBR for quite some time now, and I am definitely looking forward to read this book very soon. This series has the reputation of being very emotionally gripping, and it seems like a series I would absolutely love. Beartown is set in a small town that is obsessed with hockey. We follow the residents as they navigate loyalty, ambition, and a shocking event that shakes the whole town. Alright, next up we have Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have been told this book is very similar to The Favorites, which is one of my favorite books I've read last year. Since then, I've become very interested in this book. I have loved Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but a lot of her other books have fell very flat for me, so I really do hope that I love this one. In Carrie Soto is Back, we are following Carrie Soto, who is a retired tennis champion, as she attempts a comeback to reclaim her place at the top of the sport. We see high-stakes competitions, fierce rivalries, and deeply personal connections. I cannot wait to dive into this book, not only to see Carrie's story, but also how it compares to The Favorites. Alright, last but not least, we have Deep Cuts by Holly Brickley. So I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on this book, so I was very hesitant to add it to my TBR. But then I remembered that reading is so subjective, and it sounded interesting to me, so I'm gonna read it anyways. This book is set in the 2000s, and we follow Percy, who is someone who absolutely loves analyzing music. She meets Joe, another student at her college, who is a songwriter. After Joe asks her for feedback on one of his songs, they create a partnership that ignites passion for them both. I absolutely love music and how it connects people, so I am super interested to see how Percy and Joe's shared love of music shapes their relationship and fuels their personal growth. Alright, those were the 26 books that I am looking forward to reading in 2026. If you have read any of these books or are planning to add them to your TBR too, I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments. Hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time.